All right. Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking to you about rhetorical appeal. So, we're going to be talking about how people change their minds, how to convince other people to do things, and to not also be convinced by other people to buy useless junk, and essentially to not be a sucker. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, first of all, an appeal is basically something where an author or just a person in general tries to make something seem interesting. It's used to grab the reader's attention or the audience if you're just a speaker. So again, you're just trying to make somebody interested in either your argument, a product. It could be anything like that, just to make the subject seem interesting. So first of all, we're going to go over some of these are going to be ones that you've heard before, but again, it's always good to get a good review. So ethos is how an author builds credibility and trustworthiness. You could always thinking of commercials that have doctors, but I'm trying to do little less obvious ones. So here's an example of ethos in a commercial.
That's not a knife. That's a knife. That's me.
Really?
Whatever.
You all right there, mate?
Just getting a clean shave with my machete.
See you next week, Barry.
Not a lot of crocs out here, huh?
It's 37,000 miles of pristine beach, mate. Did you know that Australia makes some of the finest wines in the entire world?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Wait, hold up. This isn't a movie.
No.
It's a tourism ad for Australia.
Yes. But listen, you're the best Crocodile Dundee since Crocodile Dundee.
Really?
Yes, really. And we had the best trip ever, didn't we?
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Hey, there are some great flight deals to Australia right now.
Dude, I get it. It's not a movie, it's a commercial.
Okay, so again, that was ethos because Chris Hemsworth is Australian. So again, they're trying to get somebody who has credibility that a lot of people recognize as an Australian actor. So obviously they wanted to get somebody who is one, recognizable, but two, also from the country. So again, that is ethos in itself. So next we're going to go ahead and look at pathos. And I know that there's obviously the most obvious one is the ASPCA, in the eyes of an angel, heart of an angel, something like that. But anyways, the one where shows all the sad dogs and stuff. But there's less obvious ones. Again, I wanted to show more subtle video. So here we go.
Such a simple thing. Clean water at the turn of a tap. It's like magic. It takes no time at all. And yet millions of people in the developing world walk up to 6 hours every day for water. This chalice can change that. If just 1% of you watching this buys one, we could give clean water to 1 million people for 5 years. Join Stella Artois and Water.org and help give back their precious time.
Okay, so that was pathos because, again, repeats itself on this one, but pathos makes you feel a certain emotion, right? So in this case, the emotion, and whenever you describe it, I want you to go beyond just saying it creates emotions. So for example, this one, I would say probably made you feel sympathetic towards the people who don't have water, don't have easy access to water. So it shows how easy it was for us to just turn on water as opposed to them having to walk to get water. And then also too, making you feel hope, showing that, you could make a change and a small change would help millions of people, right? So again, that is an example of pathos where it triggers an emotion in you. And again, it could be any emotion. It could be a good emotion. It could be a bad emotion. It just makes you feel something emotional that's not necessarily logical. Speaking of logic, so logos is just that. It's basically using evidence to help prove a point. So we'll go ahead and watch this commercial.
It's like having fuzzy slippers on your teeth, but the real word for it is plaque. And that news came straight from the dentist. His advice, switch to Colgate Total.
When so again, I saw testimonials.
A little pink in the sink, I thought, I'm just brushing too hard.
And I'm going to just skip over here.
Only Colgate Total reduces plaque by up to 98% and gingivitis by up to 88%.
So again, using statistics to help prove their point, okay? So that's what logos is. All right, now we're going to get into some ones you probably haven't heard before. So Parallel structure is using the same pattern of words to show that two or more ideas have the same level of importance. So if you look here, even in this, saying and fainting, right? And again, basically both of these verbs end with ing. So saying, fainting, and it's like kind of like a repetition, but you're repeating like a style of word that is being used. So let's go ahead and watch this.
We speak student.
And again, we're not going to watch the whole thing.
Parallel structure, a la Schmuck. We like to think that without his classic example of parallel structure, I came, I saw, I conquered, Caesar couldn't have conquered more than the stretch of land underneath his big toe. Caesar obviously spent hours with a grammar textbook because he apparently knew that parallel structure is powerful. It forms a list of ideas like coming, seeing, and conquering. Usually it'll tie them together with ors, ands, or commas. It creates a pattern for the reader to follow so that the ideas are easier to get and remember. Basically, it just makes stuff sound awesome, which is important when ruling an empire or writing an English paper. The number one rule of parallelism is picking a part of speech for your list and sticking to it. Verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, whatever. Just don't change it up in the middle of your list. For example, Patrick ruined the school production of Julius Caesar by saying his line incorrectly, fainting into Brutus's arms and his inability to spit out another word. That sentence starts off with two verbs, saying and feigning, and then ends on the noun inability. A verb, and then suddenly a noun? That kind of thing will lose an audience faster than anyone can say Candy Crush Saga. Well, that's a great game. Anyway, since not all parts of speech translate perfectly into other parts of speech, some tweaking might be needed to fix the broken parallelism, but it'll...
Okay, so I'm just going to stop it there. So again, that's the most important part, is just like, rather than saying, fainting, and then like this random noun, it'd be saying, fainting, blanking. So again, it creates a nice pattern. It makes it a lot more easy to flow, basically, what you're saying. So antithesis is a little more difficult. Again, it's where you have two opposite ideas that are put together in a sentence to achieve like a contrasting effect. So let's go and watch this and I'll explain
DirecTV has
it.
been rated #1 in customer satisfaction over cable for 17 years running. But some people still like cable, just like some people like banging their head on a low ceiling, drinking spoiled milk, camping in poison ivy, getting a paper cut, and having their arm trapped in a vending machine. But
Okay, so again, sarcasm fits that because, again, he's showing, like, again, two things that are very opposite of what you would expect, and then basically, like, using it to show that people wouldn't like that, and just, like, paying too much money. People don't like to do that, so that's why you should go with DirecTV, okay? All right, rhetorical question. A lot of you know what this one is, but it's a question asked in order to create a dramatic effect. It is not meant to get an actual answer, just to make the listener or reader think.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Does Charlie Daniels play a mean fiddle?
So the answer we know, obviously, would be yes. Just even if you don't know who Charlie Daniels is, just watching the video, you know, he's playing it very well. So again, it's a dramatic point that they're trying to make without it being actually answered. Okay, now, and for me, I pronounce this anaphora. Some people pronounce it anaphora, but I'm fairly certain that you would pronounce it anaphora. So here's an example of anaphora being used.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hope.
Okay, so Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech is a great example of anaphora because, again, he repeats the phrase, I have a dream, at the beginning of each sentence. So it has to be at the beginning of, like it says, at the successive clauses. So I have a dream, I have a dream, I have a dream. So saying it multiple times at the beginning of each sentence, like in a row, is what anaphora is. All right, patriotism. Patriotism is obviously another real easy one to get. Now, the one thing is, patriotism doesn't just mean patriotism in American patriotism. It's patriotism for any country. So if it's, Mexican patriotism, Canadian patriotism, Roman patriotism, and Julius Caesar, those are all examples of patriotism. So here we go.
America, land of the free and home of the mouth-watering ballpark frank, grilled on the flames of liberty and named after our national pastime. Ballpark franks are made with 100% Angus beef and just a dash of democracy. So when someone asks you, hey, are you free to eat a great-tasting ballpark frank this weekend? That's when you say, of course I'm free. I'm an American. Ballpark franks, so American.
Okay, so again, that's another example of patriotism. That is an example of patriotism. So lots of imagery, Abraham Lincoln, Mount Rushmore, bald eagle, referencing democracy multiple times. So those are all American ideals. So it creates it's tying ballpark franks to the American ideal to make people, it's like, oh, if you're patriotic, you should be eating this. All right, and then scare tactics. There's two types of scare tactics. There's the realistic scare tactics, which we're going to watch first. Not creepy at all.
Okay, how about some lunch? You hungry?
Yeah.
Me too. Hello.
This is Marvin.
Okay, and so obviously real life situation that could happen, although I don't feel like that probably happens all the time, especially in broad daylight, but anyway, so it's just using fear to influence people to either purchase something or to do something using a realistic version of what could happen. And then obviously you have a more exaggerated, scare tactics doesn't always have to be serious. They could be also again, hyperbolic. So here's an example of that.
I'm your blind spot. And my job is easy. Hide big things. You're good. And with your cut rate insurance, you could be paying for this yourself. So get Allstate.
Okay, so again, showing that, bad things can happen. Obviously, they did it in a more humorous way. While it could be a scary situation in real life, obviously what happened, they didn't present it in a realistic, scary way. So, but those are just some examples. Those are the examples that we are going to be pretty much using in order to talk about rhetorical strategies, rhetorical appeals. So there will be a quiz on this. So make sure that you watched, hopefully you watched the video, or else you wouldn't be hearing me say this right now. But we're also going to be doing a quiz, and then we're also going to be doing some practice watching other commercials, specifically political ad commercials. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next class.